Hi, Jessica. I'm here with Jessica Flores here. And Jessica, for those that who don't know, she's really, really, really funny. So, Jessica, tell me, would you start by telling me a little bit about yourself? Were you born down? What was it like growing up?
Well, before we start, do I have anything in my teeth?
You have a little bit of spinach in there.
Just a little bit? A little bit? I had so much more. Okay, hold on. How about now?
Yes, you do have spinach in your teeth.
Okay, we can start.
See, people, I told you she was funny.
God, that was an awful idea. It didn't taste good.
You really do have green in your teeth now.
That's what I was rooting for. Anyways, I'll stop.
Tell me the story when you were born. What was it like growing up?
Well, so I am 29. I lost my hearing. Well, me and my parents, we don't really know when I lost my hearing, but we found out in first grade. And ever since then, I wore hearing aids. Hold on, my grandfather's calling me. Hold on. Sorry.
When I answer that call.
No, he's the only person that's allowed to call me, Other than that, I'm like, no. But anyways, we found out that I was losing my hearing in first grade. So ever since then, I've been wearing hearing aids. I grew up going to mainstream school, so I didn't really have access to much deaf culture or deaf community, anything like that.
Any deaf hard of hearing people when you were growing up? You're the only one on the planet who was deaf.
Yeah, that's true. I knew that there was one other kid who was a few grades below me. He wore hearing aids, but he hated them and he always took them off. But we never...
Hate your hearing aids?
No, I was able to adapt pretty fast wearing my hearing aids. I just kind of thought they were like normal, and I
hide them, right?
No, yeah. Yes, I did. So it's interesting because when I was in first grade, I picked out my ear mold colors that were bright pink because I was like, oh my God, I love that color. Like, I want that color. So I had bright pink. Then I had one side that was bright green and then bright orange on the other side for Nickelodeon. Because at that time,
I was afraid to stand out, right?
No. I was like, boom, I'm here. Yeah. But as I got older, I think you start losing that kid part of you.
Right.
And it's like, I think that people expect you to be a certain way. They expect you to, like work a certain way. Like when it comes to school, I was always like, I had a good elementary school. It was good, but I was treated the same as like all the other hearing students. So, and when it came to my teachers, some of them, they thought that I learned the same way as the hearing students. So because they thought that I started to think that, so when I grew up, I was always like getting mad and upset that I never could keep up with the other students, So I kind of like just became more quieter, and I didn't want a lot of people to like, know that I was deaf. Like I always,
become more shy.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, did you find yourself like hiding your real personality because you couldn't function like hearing people?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Tell me about that.
There's a fly in this room. It's trying to take over my interview. But yeah, I know, I'm trying to be serious. This is a serious moment, but I'm just really, my real personality comes out now. I'm a
it's great. Let it fly.
You know.
Pun intended.
But you know, I definitely became more shy. I didn't. I had a lot of friends, but I never really felt like myself.
And why is that?
That's because I mean, you know, I was the only deaf person that I really knew. You know, nobody else around me was facing the same struggles as I was. So, like, I was always like, who do I look up to? You know, like, there's no one to like.
Role model.
Yeah.
Helen Keller was the only one that I knew.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I was like, okay, Helen Keller.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, that's the. It's like, it's funny because everyone, like, they also like would be like, oh, you know, Helen Keller, and I'm like, okay, but you know, that's about it. That was how wide like my spectrum was when it came to like the deaf community. It was very small. I didn't know anything, you know. I just knew that I knew my ABCs. I had that. But other than that, it was just like, it kind of felt like kind of hopeless, you know, like you feel very alone and you're just like, where are my people at?
So at what point did it start changing for you?
For me, like, you mean like when I woke up and I was like, hey, I was like, this is not me, you know, like I'm not this person, I'm not shy. I remember there was one day that I went to see my audiologist and I just kind of I got sick of picking out clear ear molds, you know, and then ear molds that blend in and everything. And I was just like,
I totally get it.
I have green right now.
Can you see I have an obsession with blue?
Yeah, I love it. Because, yeah, it's the same. Oh, it's beautiful. You're color coordinating with your background.
Yes. So when I change my room, I have to change my ear mold color.
It's only $160. It's cool.
It's $2.
But so I went to the audiologist and I was like, hey, can I get the pink ear molds that I used to have like when I was younger? And she's like,
I got the same reaction.
Yeah, she was like,
how old are you? When you want blue?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. She was like, yeah, I mean, you can if you want. And I'm like, bring me those colors out. So she brought them out and I was like, you guys still have the same colors that I used to have to pick out when I was like 8. I was like, you did not get more colors? Like, come on. They have like 50 shades of clear, you know, like why not some different shades of red or something? Ridiculous. But you know,
I mix mine.
I've never done that.
Green and blue.
I want to try that. But I always put glitter, but you can't really see it.
My previous pair was purple glitter to match my daughter's pink glitter hearing aids. Kind of match. Yeah.
That's so cute. Damn. See, that's what I'm trying to convince my grandpa to get hearing aids so I can have somebody in my family, you know, like, to match our hearing aids.
Skip the glitter.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
You know,
but it would be really cool if he had glitter. That'd be
You could
amazing.
tell them that they only come in glitter.
Sorry,
No,
sorry,
Grandpa.
Grandpa. You have to get glitter. That'd be so cute.
It's funny.
Um,
So let's go
but,
back
but
to that moment when you started to realize that you come tired of like hiding this whole deaf stuff and you started celebrating the deaf stuff.
mhm.
Tell me about that transition.
I think that, you know, so that moment that I picked out the new ear molds, the colors, I was like, it made me feel more confident. And I kind of like, I wanted to stand out. I wanted to like show people like who I am. I was like sick and tired of like hiding and like covering them, because
Yeah.
there, like, if you hide your hearing aids, a lot of the times people, they they assume that you can hear because they can't see your hearing aid. So when you hide them, it's like people treated me different. It's so weird. But the moment that I got bright pink hearing aids, bright pink ear molds, people were treating me nicer in a way because they saw it and they were like, oh, okay. Like, I
That's
have,
why you're acting so different.
yeah, yeah.
You're not hearing me.
Yeah, yeah. But it was interesting to me to see that change because like, I was like, wow, like when I wore clear hearing aids, people were mean and they were rude because they had no idea, like they just assumed that I could hear everything, right? And when people assume that you can hear everything, sometimes they kind of get like aggressive and mean when you don't respond to them or you don't hear them the first few times. And it was interesting because I was like, wow, do hearing people treat each other like that? Like, what if somebody was just wearing earbuds, and then, I mean, I wouldn't get mad at a person if they didn't hear me, but I was like, wow. So I think that going back, when I picked out the ear molds and people started to like pay attention and they were nicer, they were more welcoming, that kind of made me like a little more like proud about like being deaf. Like that's who I am. I want to show that off. Like it's a part of me. I shouldn't need to hide a part of me. Like that's just ridiculous. Like why should I like try to keep a secret of what's the biggest part of me, that's like part of my character. That's who I am. Like why hide that? Yeah. So I think
You started making videos
mm-hmm.
and started sharing some of your thoughts and sharing what you learned. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah. So I was working at a coffee shop, and at that time I was working full time. I had that job and I had another job, and I was just lip reading every single day and it was exhausting. But one thing I noticed about working at the coffee shop was that I got a lot of customers that would come up to me and ask me questions about my hearing aids, about if I knew sign language, stuff like that, how to communicate with me. And I would answer all the questions. But at the time I was like, I'm only answering one person's question, And I was like, I want to be able to educate more people, not just that one person. I want to be able to get a larger audience. So I was like, well, why not try YouTube and see what happens, like, I mean, if I post a video and it goes, well, cool. If not, whatever, at least I got more than one person, So I started that when I was still working at that coffee shop. I started that, and it just kind of like, like domino effect, like people really were enjoying the videos because they wanted to know my perspective as a deaf person. They wanted to know what to do when they meet a deaf person. People are overall, they're curious, like they want to know. So yeah, it's been really fun. Like I enjoy making my videos, and yeah, I want to make more. I haven't made any lately, but I'm going back into it. I promise I'll get back into it. But yeah, I think
Which video kind of went viral, or which video had the most impact?
the one that had the most impact was probably when I mentioned that there is more than one type of sign language.
Really? Why do
Yeah,
you
yeah.
think it was so popular?
Because myself, when I first started learning sign language, I didn't even really know that there was other sign languages. I just knew that there was American Sign Language, but I mean, my head was, I was so closed-minded, like I didn't know about anything about the deaf culture, deaf community, and stuff like that. So when I started, I had questions myself as a deaf person. And when I found out that there was other sign languages, I was like, oh my gosh.
Now you can learn Japanese, you can learn Chinese.
Because when I was in high school, it's kind of off topic, but when I was in high school, the school that I was at the time, they told me I needed to take up Spanish to pass to go on to next grade. I was like, are you crazy? Because I just took speech therapy for English. Like, I was like, you want me to take speech therapy for Spanish? Are you going to provide that for me? I don't think so. So they were like, you know what, you have to. So I tried, and it was awful. I failed. I was so bad. But, you know, so when I found out that I could learn other languages in sign language, I was so happy because I've always wanted to learn Spanish. But
there
when
you
it
go.
comes to
Now it's
pronouncing,
visible.
yes, yeah. And
Yeah.
like, I mean, when it comes to pronunciation, that's hard for me to do. Like, it's really hard for me to like listen and pick up that sound. I can pick up the lips, but like the sound's hard to hear. So now I'm like, yeah, like I pick up the signs so quickly. So I think that when I remembered, I was like, well, I thought that was cool when I found that out. I was like, oh, that's super interesting. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to share that with other people and see if they think it's interesting. And then, yeah, it just,
did.
yeah, it's that one small little thing. And then people are like, oh yeah. And then it's funny because then I also had support from the deaf community who they were like, yes, we've been telling you guys. Like, oh, there's more than one sign language, jeez. Yeah, so
I'm saying it forever. No one's listening, and they're listening now.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So
on this whole journey of really becoming comfortable with being deaf, what was like the most surprising thing for you? You know, this whole journey.
I mean, I'm still being surprised about myself, you know. But I think that one of the most surprising things probably how comfortable I finally feel with myself. And like, I think that's a big thing because like, even when I first started my videos, I wasn't 100% comfortable with who I was, you know. I was still trying to figure out like who I was as a deaf person, like where do I mean, where do I belong? But now I've become so much more confident, you know, and that, I think that surprises me. Like I still have times where I'm like, you know, I struggle and it hurts and it hurts my confidence a little bit, but I'm able to get back on my feet more quicker, you know, now than I used to be. So I think I'm surprising myself all the time. I just have baby steps, And I know that in the future I'll be like super confident woman. You know? Yeah.
So speaking of the future, like what is your big dream or what's one of the big goals that you have for the future?
So right now I'm working on doing improv and acting and stuff like that. I think, you know, I want to get into that. I want to take that path because I want to at least get my foot through the door in media, social media, whatever, YouTube, so people can start seeing other deaf people like acting, doing comedy, stuff like that. So I can break in the door for other people to come in too, my other deafies to follow me, you know? And yeah, so I think like, I mean, I have so many big goals and ideas right now, but just taking baby steps to get there. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I want to expose our community, you know, and put us out there. Like, I want to, in the future, I hope to see more deaf and hard of hearing people being portrayed in like the media and movies, not as something that's like, oh, I'm so sorry that person's deaf, like this is sad, not like that, like just normal, you know? Yeah, like I would love to see a deaf performer on Saturday Night Live. Like just one. Right? Like just something like that.
Oh, actually, I think Marley Matlin was on Saturday Night Live.
Oh,
I think she was performed. We can double check that. But I think Marley has been on Saturday Night Live.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, obviously we're not exposed to that kind of hearing people. Just like me growing up, we didn't have a whole lot of exposure. What do you think is the value of having that hard of hearing adults in a child's life? What do parents need to know?
Like are you saying
so if you've got a parent with this new baby who's identified deaf, hard of hearing, why is it so important for that parent to expose their child to adults who are deaf and hard of hearing while they're growing up?
Because the deaf adult has experienced the things that your child's going to experience. You haven't. And that's hard. I understand that. You want, like, adults, they want so much to be able to teach their kid and watch their kid, like, just go for it, you know, but, you know, sometimes I feel like parents need to step back and bring in somebody who has experienced the things their child's going to experience. Because, like, for example, I was thinking about it. My parents, I love my parents. They did as much as they could for me. But I realized one thing that my parents did was whenever I didn't understand something, they always said, make sure you ask your teachers, make sure you ask them if you don't understand, make sure you ask them if you don't understand. But for
so
me,
how do you know you didn't understand if you didn't hear them?
But you know, when they told me that, you have to realize that I didn't understand like hours of class, you know, like
every 2 seconds.
Yeah,
I didn't hear that.
Like, what am I gonna do? Like every 2 minutes, am I gonna be like, I don't know, like, what'd you say? What, huh? No, like the class would just go on and on and on and on. So even though that was good advice, it wasn't something I could do. And then that kind of led to me being able to bluff so well. I am such an expert bluffer. Like,
queen of bluffing. Yep.
Qualified.
It's a human thing. It's a human thing.
Yeah, it is.
Hearing people do it too.
Yeah. It's interesting because I noticed that bluffing, like sometimes like the reason why I'm bluffing is because I was like in class in school lip reading and I'm tired. I'm like, so that, yeah, of course I'm gonna bluff. My eyes are exhausted. I don't want to ask questions and just keep bluff. So it's hard. And I feel like I wish I didn't have that habit. I mean, trust me, it makes me a pretty good actor, you know? So I'm surprised I haven't won an Oscar yet. 29 years and I haven't gotten an Oscar yet for bluffing. But it's a hard habit to break too.
It is. I know.
Sure.
I'm there. Even today, with my awareness and everything, I still catch myself once in a while nodding, just out of habit.
Yeah.
It's like, wait a minute. So,
yeah.
Human thing.
So, for sure.
Well, Jessica, thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing where you're going with all this, and maybe we'll see you on stage or at Saturday Night Live.
Oh, well, if it's not me first, I hope it's somebody. I'm just rooting for somebody. One deaf and hard of hearing cast member.
Maybe you.
Maybe.
Okay. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me here. Yeah.